afternoon to one and all. And at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers and Dr. Bhalerao ma'am for inviting me to speak on this topic. Respected chairpersons and my dear friends. Now, as we all know, pregnancy is probably the most dangerous journey for any individual. And as obstetricians, our work revolves around the labor room and operation theatre, and as we all know, ectopic pregnancy and antepartum and postpartum hemorrhage, eclampsia, these are the nightmares that we often face during our work. In India, Sushruta was the one who started performing surgeries as long back as 600 BC. Coming to technical skills, they refer to the psychomotor action, that is, surgical skills. Now, knots or non-technical skills for surgeons. This was developed by a team at Scotland at the University of Aberdeen. And what was the need for developing this? The analysis of all untoward incidents, it suggested that the failures in non-technical skills are often the causal factors for these adverse events rather than lack of technical expertise. Now, no matter how expert we are, no matter what we do, while managing these critical cases, still, in spite of taking all the action, there are some adverse events which are bound to happen, because to err is human. But our aim should be to do no harm and provide the best specialized treatment that is available. So NOTS is a tool to observe and rate the behavior in labor room and OT in a structured manner. It enables clear and transparent assessment of training needs. Saving lives is our motto, and for this we need to focus on quality. Now, the non-technical skills include the cognitive and interpersonal skills, and these complement our practical and technical competencies. The components are leadership, the interpersonal relations and communication skills, the cognitive skills which help in decision making, and the personal resource skills, that is to cope with our own stress and fatigue, which is very common for us. So these are the components of non-technical skills, keeping the facility ready for focusing on quality improvement, teamwork and communication, network integration, advocacy and branding, and thus saving the lives. Now, coming to facility readiness, what does it exactly mean? Like supposing you are talking about PPH, this workshop is on PPH. So in a labor room or OT, you should have a PPH corner where everything, all the requirements are kept ready, because you don't know when you will face this situation. Then availability of all the OT and labor room supplies, including the blood products. Emergency response team should be identified and it should be ready to step in any time the situation arises. Or a PPH alert mechanism can be established. Like we have code blue, we can have code red, so that at the moment you call, the team is ready for you. 24/7 availability of skilled care providers, and the referral protocol and checklist facility should be there, and availability of all ancillary services. So you need the support of the nursing staff, your attendants, the ambulance if required, so all those additional things which we need. Now these are the components: situation awareness, gathering. Now whenever you're dealing with such a situation which arises, so you have to assess the situation, then gather all the information. So you should know what exactly is happening in the labor room or OT, wherever such a thing is happening. A proper decision making, communication amongst the staff members, as well as communicating with the patient and the relatives, work and to exhibit leadership qualities. At the same time, coping with the pressure or the stress which arises during such a situation. So you have to act. Now once you are facing such a situation, you collect all the information from the previous records, review the history, discuss important information, and plan labor ward priorities, taking into account the potential delays which might occur. Also, you have various options to deal with the situation, but whatever you choose, keep a plan B or a contingency plan ready. Do not overlook or ignore important results. Overconfident maneuvers or decisions with no regard for what may go wrong, and do not practice beyond level of experience. Coming to decision making, skills for diagnosing the situation and to choose an appropriate course of action. Consider various options, weighing up the threats and benefits of potential options. Recognize the problem and have a balanced discussion of all the options. Discuss all the pros and cons with the relevant team members. Take the opinion of other colleagues and also discuss the published guidelines. In OT, prior to the surgery, always carry out preoperative checks. I think most of us are doing it, but this is just to complete this list that all preoperative checks should be made. Liaise with the anesthetist regarding the anesthesia plan for the patient. Optimize all the operating conditions before starting the surgery. Identify the pathology clearly. Monitor ongoing blood loss and interact with the anesthetist intraoperatively also. Now there are two terms, expert team and team of experts. So what is the difference between these? The team of experts means there are various people who form a team, but they are experts, but they may not be available for you all the time. Anytime you call and they may not be available. So it is better to have an expert team, a team of yourselves who are experts, who have been trained. So this is the difference between the two. It's always better to have an expert team, a team which is already there and who has been trained properly. So coming to clinical handoff. Clinical handoff is nothing but whenever you are giving handover. Supposing you are referring the patient, you need to give a handover, or you want to, if you have a patient who is being transferred to ICU, you need to give a handover, or during the change of shift, you need to give handover. So the technical term is clinical handoff, and this is defined as the transfer of professional responsibility and accountability for some or all aspects of care for a patient or group of patients to another person or professional group on a temporary or a permanent basis. And this is based on the S-bar, that is situation, background, assessment and recommendation. So whenever you are giving the handover, you have to explain what the situation is, what was the background of that particular case, what is your assessment and what is your recommendation, means what you think is right. The person who is taking handover may decide according to his experience, but this is how you give the handover, especially for the postgraduates. You have to give handover according to this. This is known as S-bar. Now, communication, coordination amongst the team members and cooperation, all these go hand in hand. These work hand in hand. And how do you have an effective communication, or how do you give proper cover? You have to list down the task, note down the task so that even a minor point should not be missed out. Identify your potential team members, clearly assign the task to each and every individual, and you should have your team ready by practicing repeatedly on the simulators, and so that when you have to implement it, you are able to do it properly. Coming to communication and teamwork. Now, effective communication and teamwork is very important to complete the task effectively. The leader should be both able to share the knowledge and also should be able to receive the knowledge. He should also be receptive also and in a timely manner. He should listen to the concerns of the team member, and clear and concise handovers should be given without missing any important information. So, how do you form a team? It is formed with more than one members. The senior-most team member is the in charge or the team leader who takes the history, reviews the case quickly and makes the clinical decision. The next senior person or the assistant will assist in whatever procedures are required, and he assists and is also at the same time ready to learn. Then nurse, the staff nurse may be the supplier who will provide all the necessary medications, the consumables, whatever is required, whatever the leader requires, the nurse is quickly supplying all the requirements. And one of the persons should inform the relatives and take consent. So we need at least 4 people. There may be more than 4 people, but at least 4 people are required. At times there may be that only 3 people are there. That does not mean that you will not talk to the relatives. Someone will have to step in and do that part also. I would like to tell you something about closed loop communication. So what is closed loop communication? Whenever you are working in a team and the team leader gives some order, tells you that yes, you give magnesium sulfate 5 grams intramuscularly. So whoever person or the assistant who is giving the injection must revert back telling that yes, this injection has been given. Why this is important is because none of the tasks should be repeated. It should not happen that the person does not know that the injection has been given and somebody is giving it again. Or none of the tasks should be missed. So this is known as closed loop communication, so that whatever work or whatever task has been done is spoken out loudly, so that all the team members will know that this thing has been done and we are now moving ahead. This is known as closed loop communication. Coming to leadership. So who is a very good leader? The leader is the one who leads the team, and he should have the ability to quickly review and make correct decisions. He has the ability to delegate the work. You have to decentralize the work. It's not that one person keeps doing all the work. You cannot do it effectively. So according to the team members, according to the need of the case, you properly delegate the work to all the team members, following the codes of good clinical practice and guidelines. If there is a new team member, the leader introduces himself to the new member also and clearly follows all the labor ward guidelines. And thus he inspires confidence in the team members. Coping with pressure, this is very important for us as obstetricians. Adopting appropriate manner without undermining the role of other team members. So no matter what the situation is, do not panic and do not lose your calm. Emphasize the urgency of the situation, take complete responsibility of the situation and prioritize the things. What needs to be done first needs to be done first. Make appropriate decisions even when you are under pressure. Delegate the task, this we've already talked of. Continue to lead the team through the emergency, and once the situation is under control, once the task is done, you have to return to debrief. So debriefing is required for the woman or her relatives, see what has happened and what the current situation is, and debriefing is required amongst the team members also. This is to assess whether everything went well or not, or if something was missed, then this is the time that you tell the team members that this task could have been done in a different way, in a better way. So this is what is known as debriefing. Coming to counseling, this is the process or the act of helping the client to see things more clearly and make correct decisions, and there should be confidentiality which should be maintained. Counseling is not just giving advice, being judgmental, or expecting or encouraging the client to take a particular decision, getting emotionally involved with the client, or looking at the client's problem from your perspective based on your value system. Now, while selling, these are the things which you need to keep in mind, and the acronym for this is SPIKE. So S stands for setting up the interview. You set up a place where there is least disturbance so that you can talk one-to-one with the patient or her relatives. Assess patient's perception. You ask her how much she knows, what she knows about the particular case, what is her knowledge, what she understands. Then obtain patient's invitation means you have to ask her or take her permission or ask her what she wants to know. Okay, she may not be wanting to know all the details, so whatever her queries are, that you have to answer. Giving knowledge and information to them. Apprise the patient about the particular case or whatever situation you are dealing with. Address her emotions or empathize with her. It is only when you empathize with the patient or in that situation that you will be able to give her correct support, right support. And finally, form the strategy or explain her what the further strategy is going to be and summarize. So to conclude, being a good doctor means more than simply being just a good clinician. And evidence-based surgery and lifelong learning or the search engine is now as essential as a stethoscope. So we need to keep ourselves updated about everything. While technical and non-technical skills are important, good surgical practice requires integrity, professionalism, and respect for the patient, autonomy and choice. So it should be a patient-centered care. And being a good surgeon is more than just being a good pair of hands. So these soft skills are as important as the surgical skill. And this is the NOTS form which has been developed by Scotland University. We can make changes as per our requirement. Thank you.